Welcome to the Grow Strong Leaders podcast. I'm your host, Meredith Bell, and I interview business leaders who are committed to their own growth and the development of everyone on their team. If you enjoy my podcast, be sure to subscribe and rate it on your favorite podcast platform. Thank you for joining me today. I'm your host, Meredith Bell. And I love bringing to you guests who are focused on their own development and are also committed to helping others bring out their full potential. And you'll see my guest today is committed on both sides of that area. Our company is also focused on bringing out the best in others. We put together tools and books that help people connect more effectively with each other at work. And you can learn more about our tools at growstrongleaders.com. Today, I want to welcome as my guest, Mark McNally. Mark, welcome to my show.
Thank you, Meredith.
It's so great to have you with me. And of course, we are both indebted to Sejal Thacker, remarkable human being who introduced us. And I know she's an integral part of your company. We can talk about that a little bit later. Mark is the founder and chief nobody at Nobody Studios. He's been involved in 15 startups over the course of his career, so he knows a thing or two about what it takes to create and maintain a successful business. I love the emphasis he puts on the people side, and during our conversation, you'll see why and how he does that. Mark, I know my listeners are very curious about Nobody Studios, why you started that and what's behind the name. So please tell us the story.
Well, thank you. And first of all, I'd echo your comments about Sejal. She's a great human being, and we're both blessed to have her in our world. So I'm glad she connected us. Nobody, and the why and the how we're named is probably two different stories, but I guess Nobody Studios, the entity came from me doing 14 startups in my career as a CEO or founder. Going back 25 years, I've had an IPO, which is a dream exit scenario. I've had a few other exits. I've had bankruptcies. I've had companies that are still out there making money. I realized at some point, in the last 3 or 4 years, I saw how company creation was going, especially this kind of irrational amount of money going into early stage companies, dealing these crazy valuations. And at one point I found myself saying 3 or 4 years ago, like, where's the adult in the room? Like, I've been through this like 2 other times in my career. This doesn't work out. This doesn't end well. And then I realized I was the adult in the room. And so I realized that if I thought it should be different, then I should create something different. And that's exactly what Nobody Studios is about. I believe that venture capital and that whole part of the industry is a huge part of what we do. But what was being created by putting too much money too early into startups was that you had a whole bunch of, this big gap between, there was actually not a lot of good early stage qualified startups, which is really where the biggest opportunities are. People who want to acquire, publicly traded companies, private equity companies, etc. The biggest exit you can create is build a good company and sell it at the end of the day, right? And the people who want to buy couldn't afford these unicorns that are coming out of the venture capital world. And so it's almost like there were two ships passing in the night. People have these dreams of building companies and selling them. They're creating these multi-billion-dollar valuations. People who want to acquire them can't wait to acquire them, but they want to be buying lower. Ultimately, we're seeing now in the last 4, 8, 10 weeks, things we've been saying for a few years now with Nobody Studios, which is markets change. And when they change, unfortunately, valuations change. When valuations change, you have to lay off people. Investors get squeezed. It's not good for most people. So the whole party that's been going on, unfortunately, something I recognize because I've been through it a few times in 25 years, is playing out how we thought. Now, venture capitalists will still make great money, but there's going to be a reset of valuations, and it's going to take 12 to 18 months. We're builders. And so we created early on this idea that we're going to take everything we know about financing, impacting people, incentivizing people, trying to do good in the world, but just this mojo of just not getting kind of too swayed by the river, but just having your own rudder and knowing because of experience and knowledge how this is going to play out. And we decided to build what's called a venture studio, which is literally we build companies from scratch, which means we're owners from scratch. And we don't actually ask for external capital until we've proven the business model. And that puts you a little bit more in the driver's seat. It means you could drive the valuations. Now, we as a studio, being a large percentage owner of those companies, also get a chance to be very disciplined in our idea of how much capital we should raise. So someone's going to give you $40 million, but you only need $3 million to raise to get to your next level. It's really hard to say no to 40. Take 5, because what that does is it means your valuation is lower, which means your likelihood of exiting is much higher. And these are some nuances that were lost in the mix in the last 4 or 5 years. So ultimately, we're a venture studio focused on global, entrepreneurship and supporting company creation. But we are very frugal, very disciplined, focused on creating the best early stage companies we can and being happy to exit them at the mid stage. If we have a unicorn, great, but that'll be gravy to our model.
It's so interesting what you learned from all those experiences that informed what you felt would be a more effective approach. There's also that aspect of nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And so what is meant by that in terms of how you raise capital?
Yeah, I mean, I think it starts with our culture. I knew early on that I wanted to create something that was bigger than any one personality, and therefore it's not McNally Studios. I knew if I got it right, there would be dozens, maybe hundreds of people who have similar experiences that I do from different paths that come together. And if we did that, I felt like we could create a vehicle and a structure that could literally have no limits in terms of where it could innovate and where it could create companies. So if you said, hey, I've got somebody in the southeast of China who has this idea and they want to create this company to solve a problem, we'd say, yeah, let's do it. And then if we wanted to fund it there and bring it to life and go public in Shanghai, we could do it. So that was my vision early on. And so therefore I knew it was bigger than one person. And so nobody is that, but it also means culturally checking the ego at the door. It's about finding the best answers. So we're all different versions of A-types, and we all have different passions and stuff. So we encourage the passions, but there is a no asshole rule at the door, right? Like, so when I tell people, like, I might be passionate about something, you 100% can challenge me. Let's figure out the right answer, right? And so I think this kind of ethic around this kind of really great peer group, and we really have a really stellar group of people that I couldn't have dreamt of 2.5 years ago coming to the table and joining the studio. And they're all defined by, oh my Lord, look at their resume. And they're coming to the table and they're talking in the same way we all are. Check the ego at the door. We're trying to make nobody into something. And I think that's what's special about us.
Well, it's special and unusual, right? Because I'm guessing in your years of experience in the 14 other startups that you started and building folks in each one of those, I'd love to know what were some of the most important leadership insights you gained over the years. I love that. Check the ego at the door. What else did you learn about what works and what doesn't as a leader?
Yeah. Well, I think I've learned communication is key, and I've always believed that, but I can always tell when things are not right. I don't say not right, but when I feel things are a little bit off in a certain category or whatever, I can usually point the finger back at myself in terms of communication. And usually when I'm talking to my other peers or my executives that work with me, if they're talking with something that's not working in their world, it can usually come back to communication, right? So I think one of the things we've always tried to remind ourselves is we have to communicate often, and we have to embrace transparency. And usually what gets in the way of communicating often is transparency. So you think to yourself, I have to craft the perfect message. I don't have time to do that right now. I'll do that next Friday, or I'll do that tonight. If you just talk out loud, then guess what? You're communicating and you're embracing transparency. And early on, you can see some of our videos and messages from 2.5 years ago. We said, transparency will be to our core, and it won't be for everybody. that'll allow us to move at the speed that we want to. And by doing that, we'll attract the right people in the journey, even though we might repel some. And so I think that's important. Now, I think leadership is an overvalued term now versus when I started the business 25 years ago. I think culture is almost as important, which comes from leadership. But one of the things we tried to do early on was to say, we're going to create a culture that reflects certainly what I'm trying to create from my experiences. And I've got a pretty broad group of experiences to pull from that tells me what I want that culture to look like. But that was just a starting point. And that culture then becomes fed by the people who become part of the journey. And it becomes a living, breathing organism, right? And that in and of itself governs us as human beings more than a leader, because we don't get a chance to say, I want to talk to you at 5 p.m. tonight, and we'll see what you did today. I'll give you a thumbs up and thumbs down. I'll tell you what to do tomorrow. That has nothing to do with what I'm excited about doing in life. I want to be around people who are really smart, better than I am, and just make sure I have a chance to have small impacts or small inputs that have big impacts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which means that the culture has to keep us together. We're not leading, leadership and culture used to be blended together 30 years ago. And now I believe culture is actually how the organization works together, how it communicates together, and what it thinks matters, what makes it get out of bed, whether or not you tell them in the morning or not. And then leadership is just how to coach and develop and mentor people to their best. It's a different kind of skill set.
So let's look at the culture you are creating, because you have the one company, Nobody Studios, and all the other companies that you're creating as a part of that. So what's involved in creating, I won't say a standard culture, but compatible cultures across those various companies and within Nobody Studios itself?
Yeah, I think the last thing you said is our biggest challenge, is just making sure we get Nobody Studios right. The individual companies, hopefully they're born from that DNA, right? But as you know, children can look different from their parents. And so I don't have any ideas that we're going to be forcing culture as the company grows. A company will grow and find its own path. I would hope that we're attracting the right people to our journey in terms of leadership that reflects kind of how Nobody thinks, and therefore it's being replicated, although it might look different. I'll be surprised if there's any wild successes within Nobody that's ran by a bunch of assholes that don't look like Nobody. I'll be surprised by that. But also rational enough to realize it could happen.
So what would you describe as some of the core values that you want to see reflected in your culture?
Well, we talk a lot about people first. And people first means a lot to us, but it just means we're all human beings. And this idea that, we're just a CV or some kind of scorecard or whatever, it's like, no, we're all human beings. And even the person who's got the perfect scorecard is human if they actually showed it, right? And look, this isn't when I started my career 20, 30 years ago, where you could kind of keep your life, work balance separate, it used to be when I started my career, you left at home at 5 p.m. and if someone called your voicemail, it was a crisis. I mean, I was one of the special executives and I had a text, I had a text pager, like no one bothered you, and then we've evolved over time where people expect, I'm going to email you at 10 o'clock at night and there's a race to see who responds first. And there's this whole culture that creates around 24/7 working and cell phones and text and WhatsApp. And then we've all grown global, and I love the global culture. But now I have teams in Manila and London, like 24/7. I've got people pinging me and asking for stuff, right? That's not where I started my career. And I think what it means that we have to figure out is protecting ourselves first and foremost within that environment, right? So people first means honoring people. So people need to say, hey, I'm wiped out. I'm taking a break. I'm 2 hours tonight. I'm taking a nap, or tomorrow I'm out. We honor that. It means it goes both ways. You have to be honest with yourself. If you're fried, if you're not in the right state of mind, if you're a little frazzled, if you have other stuff going on personally, if you know what, you've been maxing out the calendar but you haven't paid your goddamn power bill. It's time for you to take 2 hours off today and take care of personal business. You know what? You've been putting off going to the DMV for 5 months because who wants to go to the DMV? But guess what? Your driver's license will be about to be canceled. Guys, I'm taking tomorrow off. Why? Because life happens. You know, I'm taking Friday off because my boys haven't seen me in 3 days. I'm going to go surfing with them. Like, these are things that are people first. That's a cultural thing, right? And then the other thing we try to do is say, again, coming from the venture world, I believe the venture game is stacked towards investors historically. So since they're writing the checks, they kind of stack the game for everybody else who decides to join a company. And all they care about in the big scheme of things is one company going big, two companies being medium, and they expect the rest to fail. 7 out of 10 to fail. And being a startup entrepreneur my entire life and going from one startup to the other, I'm lucky enough to have a few successes. So I have a career. But if I had been at 7 failures in a row, I wouldn't have a career. And that's what venture capitalists are creating. And so we decided to change that on its head and say that if you're part of Nobody Studios in any one of our companies, you earn a piece of stock in every company we create. So you're now part of a family of company creators. And that means if Nuco 27 has an exit and you had nothing to do with it, you still get a part of it. And if Nuco 14 needs your expertise, you're glad to help. One, they're good people. You'll enjoy the intellectual exercise, but also you're incentivized. Help them solve their problem. Maybe it's a half a day. You help them solve their problem. They solve the problem. They go off to the moon. You get a piece of their exit. Nobody has flipped it on its head and said it's not about investors who get portfolio exposure. It's employees who get portfolio exposure. And that's what we're creating, which is nobody I know has done that yet.
Yeah. Well, and tying in with that, Mark, I know one of the things that's going on is this whole great resignation. And so there's a lot of competition for the talent. And so I would love for you to talk a little bit about what is it you're doing specifically to find the right people and then also to keep them.
Yeah. So I think what we just ended on was one of those things, right? So I think our culture, I think the idea that they're a part of everything we do cuts through a lot of noise. I think we definitely have a loftier goal in our overall brand positioning. We're trying to create the world in a different, better place. And I think venture creation is the best way we can do it. And I think that's appealing to a group of people. And I've got a bunch of friends who are CEOs of startups, and they gripe all the time about not being able to find good people. And I'll be honest, I don't want this to sound the wrong way, but when I announce some of the people who are joining us, these people keep pinging me like, how are you finding these people? Like, what are you doing? Like, you promising your third born? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, I really believe that we're offering a bigger vision, a loftier cause, to be a part of something bigger than another person. Like, I just believe that they can't compete with that. I'm going to be the next autonomous robot doing garbage cans. That could be $1 billion company. Does that get you out of bed? I don't know if it does. I think if you're an anonymous programmer and you can do that company, but you're part of an organization doing 100, 200 companies in the next 10 years, and that talent can be applied to 10 or 15 other companies, and you're a part of an organization trying to make better change for the world, and you get equity in all those things, I just think I have an unfair advantage in attracting talent. And I'm not really good yet at spreading the word. I mean, I'm telling you, a lot of people coming to us are coming from, I really believe, the law of attraction. I will sit down and talk to my team going, man, we really need this person. It's been 4 months. We've been talking about it. Where are they? And we start to think about it and talk about it. I'm like, we got to resonate on this. And like two days later, someone walked through the front door. So I don't have the answer on how we find them. I do have the answer on how I think we're attracting people to the journey. So
I love that because I think that there's so much truth to that. You can call it law of attraction, but it's this whole thing of concentrating on what you want and not what you don't want and just really visualizing clearly. My guess is you have a very clear picture of who it is that you would ideally like to have in a given position. And so when you focus your attention on that, it is amazing how that right person can appear.
And I enjoy the journey, right? Because the other thing I've realized is that if you resonate on, I really want a 6 foot tall, blue eyed, whatever, you might get something really different than you had to imagine in your mind, right? So a few times people have been attracted to the journey that actually fit what I was looking for, but they brought a different angle or a very different personality than I had actually set out for.
Mm-hmm.
But what I've always tried to figure out is I believe in serendipity, and I believe that those things happen for a reason. And so I'm like, okay, I called that to me for a reason. Now let you teach me. And so I think that's something again, goes back to nobody and checking the ego at the door. There's a certain amount of ego and confidence and personality required to build what we're doing. Not just me, but every person in the organization. At the same time, I always remind ourselves, it's okay if you push the first time. The second time you get a push back, take a deep breath, think twice, now listen and figure out what you're not hearing. Figure out what you're not seeing. Figure out what you're not knowing. Forget your past. And so I constantly trying to learn. And trying to make myself a better person, and the people around me are that key instrument.
Mm-hmm. Love that. I think that, to me, all the effective leaders incorporate many of the things you've already mentioned. This idea of surround yourself with people who are smarter in different areas so you can continue learning from them. I'm curious in terms of keeping the people that you attract and you hire. One of the things, you've shared to me and you've really stated it today are people are the most important. So I think it would be really helpful for my listeners to hear what are some of the things you do in your interactions, either with individuals or in a group, to convey to them they matter and they're important.
I guess I would say you struck me hard on that one. It's something I want to be way better at, even though I think I'm good at it. How's that? I'm a mentor who reminds me all the time that the only thing that matters is every time you talk to your key people on a one-on-one is to ask them how they're doing and check in with them and focus on them. And I just think it's brilliant. And I'm just not good at that. I mean, he tells me all the time I'm not good at it. Because I always have 14 things on the list that I have to get through, right? But he's right. So how about I answer it my way? I'm there for my people. And they know they can call me anytime with any topic. And I will make room no matter what's going on in my world. And I'll find a way to help. I'll find a way to solve it. And I do believe that if you're in my inner circle, you're part of this organization, you're part of my friendship circle, you're part of my family. And I love them the same way I would anyone else in that circle. So that is what I give. And I give with the same expectations I give everybody else in my circle. It's not an open door to take advantage of that. No, the same way it's not for me to them, right? But we work hard, we do our thing every single day, and sometimes we're short, we're concise, we gotta do what we gotta do. But when it's time to debrief or cry or hug, I'm your person. Let's talk about it. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be work.
Mark, I love your answer. And I especially like something that came across to me is you let them know you love them. They feel that. They sense that. And so in a given moment, if you respond in a way that might be more abrupt because of your list of multiple things, don't you think that makes a difference in how they receive whatever your response might be in a given moment if they feel that they have that foundational, strong relationship with you?
I would certainly hope so, right? That's certainly what I'm trying to bring to the table. And I think you nailed it. I think love is a good way of saying it. The people who are close to me, I love them and I'll do anything for them. I don't think love gets you away from words or actions. Like I think there's an accountability, right? But like if it's just transitional or it's transactional or whatever, it's like let's not, you care about your sister, your daughter, your husband, whatever, the same way. You get their grumpy one day or they're busy one minute. Like that's what we're trying to give each other. And I didn't realize until actually this journey that my first leadership experience was at Army Special Ops. And I was 19, 20-year-old kid. And in that environment, you're deployed with 12, 14 other people in a team to some extreme parts of the world, and you're hours away from support, which means if something goes bad, it's not going to end up well. And you're literally counting on each other. And guess what? You're all cross-trained. So there's not like this person's the top, this was number 2, this number 3. It's like, no. They teach you the calculated models that most of you aren't going to survive, so you better teach each other how to do what you do. So you have this like, get over your ego. Let's train each other. This is how this works. This is how this works. And very rarely does pecking order. There's a pecking order in terms of seniority, but not very often. And it's very pure, high-performing, pure organization is what Special Ops is. Amazing individuals who are high-performing, who nobody needs to be babysat.
Right.
What you need is a culture, a glue that keeps people together. And part of that is knowing I can trust you and knowing that you got my back. And I coined the term internally in the organization, we'll move at the speed of trust. The minute you have to look backwards and you're not sure what someone's going to say behind your back or what that person's going to say, we're slowing down. So I'd rather just clean house and move faster because that's not going to work for me. And I didn't realize that. 25 years into commercial business and startups, how much that meant to me. Because I think the first time that I've had such talent come together is this Nobody Studios. Like really amazing people you just dream of working with. And I realized what I needed was that glue of we're all high-performing people. Now, the glue will be trust and vision and all aligned around one goal and having each other's back and making each other better. And I think that's kind of happened. How conscious it was or not, I'm really proud that it's happened.
Well, I love hearing about that. And I think you've got something really special there that you've created. And I'm looking forward to watching it continue to grow and evolve because you do have very ambitious plans for the number of companies you want to start and grow over the next, is it 5 years? 100?
Yes, ma'am.
5 years. So it's going to be fun to watch that continuous growth and evolution. So, Mark, as we come to the conclusion of our conversation, I would love for you to share how can people learn more about connecting with you and how they can either get involved with Nobody Studios or learn more about what you're doing and watch this wonderful growth that's going to be happening.
Thank you. Well, appreciate you having me on the show. This has been great. First of all, we're an open book, so LinkedIn, is a great place. Nobody Studios, follow us there. Please reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn as well, Mark McNally. You can email me directly, Mark@Nobody Studios. So, yeah, we're an open book, and so is the rest of the executive team. So we'd love for anybody to reach out for any reason.
Thank you, Mark. I so appreciate your own transparency today and openness, because to me, the conversation reflects who you're being in your business and in the world. And we need more leaders like you who really care deeply about the people who work with you, in addition to the mission that you've set out on. And I wish you the very best.
Meredith, thank you. This is really awesome. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for tuning into my podcast. Now head over to growstrongleaders.com and check out our 2 books, Connect with Your Team and Peer Coaching Made Simple. While you're there, download the free Facilitator Guide to find out how to implement our unique peer coaching system. Until next time, I'm Meredith Bell.